Hey, oh,
Steve, how's it going?
it's going all right. Yeah, always busy, but we always always try to make time for stuff. So yeah, it's good.
Man, I've been following all the things you follow. It's like, how is this guy talking about the Chiefs, the Grey Cup, the everybody?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I appreciate you following me. Yeah, it's I've had this comment before, and I had a day when I interviewed Kyle from the SJ. So I had that interview on the 17th. So I did yard work my day off. So I worked till 11, did that, and then did everything else, and then took my kid to hockey. And I remember sitting there thinking, holy smokes, like I may need another day off. Like the next day, I was like, I'm in retail, so the radio remotes are there, and I'm trying to do these radio spots, and my legs were just killing me. It was like it was quite something. So but yeah, it's sports has always kind of been a gig of mine, and then yeah, over COVID, kind of started this page because you couldn't go anywhere, and with my buddy Leighton, and it just kind of
Yeah,
it has evolved from there. So
cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of
So
wild.
how do you become a Chiefs fan? I've been a lifelong Chiefs fan. My mom's from like 30 minutes from Arrowhead, so I think I've been there 20 times.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I have family that's in Kansas. I know Kansas City's in Missouri.
Yeah,
So it was kind of one of these things. And then, yeah, the whole Derek Thomas thing, God rest his soul. And
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Where in Kansas is your family?
yeah, close to Wichita area
Okay. Yeah,
in there. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how that all happens. And then
yeah,
um, yeah, it's just yeah, every time I went down, I would talk about the Chiefs, talk about the Chiefs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's pretty good. And all the heartbreak is worth the reward now.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone. I mean, the bandwagon's large, especially now with Taylor Swift. But
Yeah.
I have like a training camp, St. Joe, Missouri, 1989, like cut off shirt, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you've been a Chiefs fan for a while. And it's like, oh yeah, no, I've been
Yeah.
going. Actually, my dad used to sneak into Memorial Stadium. You used to have to climb up a telephone pole, and you could jump into the bleachers. And
Oh,
so both my parents graduated Kansas University. My mom's from Atchison, which is kind of,
okay.
there's a triangle of like Kansas City,
Yeah.
Atchison, and Lawrence where they
Right.
both went to school. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've spent a lot of time, and also in Kansas, not
Right.
the side of
Yeah. Yeah.
not Missouri.
And it's funny because the Chiefs could be moving to Kansas after 2031. So,
Yeah, yeah, right.
but yeah, I was in Kansas. I was in Kansas City last year to watch the Chargers play, and that was pretty surreal being on that field. I was there for a game in '99 and watched Derek Thomas come out, and then I think 5 months later, he had passed away in that car crash.
Yeah, crazy,
And it's
crazy.
just like it's so breathtaking in there. And I know former teacher from Carenport was there,
Yeah,
and Ryan and Jody, and yeah, I mean for them to experience that is huge. I'm planning to take the family down in 2026, so I got the 20th wedding anniversary trip for
sweet.
2025. So
Yeah,
I always
my older brother, bachelor. My younger brother, older brother, went to Monday Night Football, Chargers, Chiefs, however many years ago now, 15 or something, and that was my wife and I's first date. And
okay,
on the way, she's like, "I'm so excited." She was a huge Jamie Rivers fan. And
right.
I'm like, oh, we'll sell your ticket. Like, you're not going to cheer for the Charger. We were 50-yard line, 4 rows up on the Chargers side, Monday Night Football.
Oh wow,
Yeah. And she converted that night. They ended it on a goal line stand basically because of the crowd. It was one of those nights where Jamie Rivers said, he actually said in his post game interview that the NFL needs to do something about the crowd noise in Kansas City. Like
well
it's
that's the same thing Elway complained about. I think in '94ish. I
right.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so same
Yeah.
sort of deal. I think I do recall that game, 2009. Then that would put us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I always say though, again, I'll play the Winnipeg. Again, I grew up in Saskatchewan for a bit, but like we're at 109 decibel at 33,000. They're at 142 at
yeah,
78,000.
yeah,
It's still loud in there. Like it's crazy. That's two Brandons put
yeah,
together.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's always good to make the connections. So I press record a bit earlier. So yeah, people are hearing this. This is good. This is awesome.
perfect. Well, this wasn't even part of the
No,
interview.
I've watched Bob McCown. They always chit chat there with John Shannon before they get in the meat and potatoes. So it's all good.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah. So yeah, again, thanks for making the time, Emery. Yeah, and thanks for coming to share a bit of your story. And
Sure.
I had a guy reach out to me, Sean Rutledge. He goes, "You got to get this guy on." So
Oh yeah, yeah.
and watched you and everything else. So I love your background. I got to get more of a nicer background, and looks pretty comfy in there.
This is our office actually. You know what? Right before I got to Yorkton, they had started. Well, it was 50 years, 50-year anniversary, and nothing had ever been done to the dressing room, the coach's office, or the training room. And they started this kind of renovation right before I got here. Actually, I moved to Yorkton, and this office had a toilet in the middle of it, nothing inside. The dressing room wasn't done, and the training room was where they were storing all the construction materials. So I was like, holy, and I got here a week before last season started. Actually,
Right,
the night before main camp.
right.
So it was a whirlwind, and nothing was made a lot of sense as far as moving a family to Yorkton. We didn't have a house. We lived in a hotel for 18 days, and we got off to a super slow start, which you should. Like the league's too good to be as disorganized as we were last year, but yeah, this year's going a lot better.
Well, it's good. Right when you have your cell phone on you, noises.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a call from yeah, Riverton. Who knows? Anyhow,
Sorry.
all
Office
good.
meeting.
Good, good. So tell us a bit about your hockey journey. You were a player in Weyburn and Estevan, and then just kind of how you got into the coaching ranks. We're about the same age. I think there's a 2-year age gap there. But
Yeah.
yeah, just tell us a bit about that journey and how you got to Yorkton, and yeah, we'll kind of take from there. I always make notes, but those are always my backup.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any notes. I wasn't sure what this is a hot seat the whole interview. So the yeah, I mean, I had a interesting way to hockey. I actually grew up in Canmore, Alberta, and my parents moved there on a like they went skiing on a honeymoon and thought this place is beautiful. Let's live here. And so, kind of raised by I mean, my dad coached hockey. Actually, one of the pictures you see in the back is my grandpa coaching in Radisson, Saskatchewan in 1940. Um, so hockey's been always kind of part of our family, but it wasn't like a huge focus. In fact, in my WHL draft year, my dad made us all quit hockey for a year and go skiing just to see if we truly loved hockey, or maybe he could convince us to love skiing like he does. And we did. I went skiing every morning before school with my dad, and won the Alberta Cup U16 as a 13-year-old, um, and then decided that I liked team sports and I liked hockey more, and kind of kept playing. So I moved. I left home at 16 to go to Caronport. And the reason was a bunch of Banff and Canmore kids, the AA team didn't have enough players. I had already gone and played AAA in Airdrie my second year Bantam, and I knew I didn't want to travel 3 hours to practice every day. I knew I didn't want to move to Airdrie and bill it yet. And I knew a bunch of guys that were going to Caronport, and including kind of my older brother's best friend had gone there a couple of years before. I thought, this place may be pretty cool. You basically all your meals are there. You live, a stone's throw from Sparrow Gardens, which was its own experience. And I know some people that are going there. So went to Caronport, and that kind of started my journey in Saskatchewan, playing for Caronport Cougars, Dwight McMillan and Ron Rumball, who were, long term coach and GM in Weyburn, saw me. They kind of invited me to Weyburn, and it kind of just fast forward went to Weyburn. Absolutely loved playing for Dwight. Having met a lot of people that played for Dwight, there's definitely mixed reviews. There was a fairness to Dwight, and the fairness was he expected his young men to win hockey games for the Weyburn Red Wings, and I thought that was as fair as it got. You go in there and help the team win. then you're on to something. And I was there for a year and a half and absolutely loved playing for Dwight. And then he traded me to Estevan for McLean and Schaefer, kind of the top two scorers in Estevan. And I was heartbroken. And I went into Dwight's office, and he had a tear in his eye, and basically said this was the hardest trade that Ronnie had to make since he traded his own son to the worst team in the league. I think it was Tyler. He traded to Minot when they were in last because it would help the Weyburn Red Wings win. So again, like there's a ruthlessness to it, but if you know Dwight, it was fair. And I actually I got to spend some time with Dwight this year, and he came down and we talked more about hockey, and he remembered every single moment of that stretch that I was in Weyburn. And probably Dwight was, and my dad, but Dwight was a big reason that I wanted to be a hockey coach. Was the impression that he made. It's a really important time in people's lives, 17, 16 sometimes now. I mean, juniors getting younger and younger, but to 20, a lot changes. And I think, having good role models and having good mentorship and stuff like that at this time is really important. But yeah, I kept playing. My dad's advice to me was keep playing hockey if you love it until there's no team to play for. And I still live that. The Theodore Buffaloes senior team offered me a place to play last year, and I didn't even know it was hit hockey, but I accepted it and went at 42 and played for the Theodore Buffaloes, and uh, you know got hit and loved it, and took advantage of the privilege of being coached again. And they asked me to do it again this year. So 43 years old, I'm gonna play senior again. And so it's kind of, I don't know. The thing I learned from my hippie ski bum parents was we only get one crack at life, and you got to spend as much time doing what you love as you can, and especially if you can make money while doing it. So that's what I do, and that's kind of my hockey journey. It spanned after junior hockey. Of course, I kept playing, went to college, got the opportunity to go to professional hockey, and that started a 10 or 11-year journey down in the Southern United States, 5 years in the Central Hockey League, another 6 years in the Southern Professional Hockey League. After I was done playing at 32, I had become a manager of a timeshare company that was a sponsor. It was an opportunity just purely given to me because I played hockey, and love the people I worked with. I think I learned some things about management, but knew that I missed trying to win and lose hockey games and learn from wins and losses. And my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time, woke up 2 or 3 in the morning. I woke her up and I said, I think I want to move to Flin Flon, Manitoba. And she said, what is that? Where is that? And so anyway, she came with me. She's always been along for the ride, and we moved to Flin Flon, and I started coaching. And that same year, I got my first head coaching job back in the Southern Professional League, and I've been coaching for the last 11 years since then. So kind of just I love the game. I love the evolution of the game. You certainly have to learn every week, and the players are coming in more and more skilled and more better trained, all that kind of stuff. And I think I just love the challenge of trying to get 25 or however many guys you got on your team onto one page and kind of playing for each other. And I love being at the rink every day with the guys.
Yeah, that's so good, right? And you talk about, age, with age. I mean, age is only a number. Like who says you can't do it, right? Like and maximize your time and your life and everything else. And you talk about the game and how it's evolving. Uh, how much do you play into the analytics? I gotta ask.
Good question. You know what? I think it's more information. Like whatever information you can gather from how your team is playing. I mean, first is the eye test. Like I've watched enough hockey that most of the time between myself and, Pierre-Luc, my assistant coach, and Scotty, who's been coaching for 40 years. Most of the time at the end of the game, you can kind of look through your notes from the game and go, this guy played really well. This guy's a little bit off, and here's some things we need to work on. But I do love the next morning, you can kind of check your own eye. Like, was I right? And I mean, if we catch a quarter of the information, that's good. So getting the other 3/4 of the information, whether it's short term, how valuable is it? I don't know, but over the span of time, I think you're missing some things as far as how guys are playing. Analytics doesn't tell you how guys are acting on the bench. It doesn't tell you how hard they worked in practice that week. Nothing like that. But no, it's valuable information. But we kind of leave it at that. Like it's good to know. It's good to share with the players. It's transparent. Like here's how you played, and sometimes the next morning it's like, hey, I was wrong to think you didn't play great, and sometimes it's like, you know what, we were all wrong and we thought you played terrible and you played great, and sometimes it was like, man, you got a lot of points, but you didn't. Like it's just more information, and I think gathering information is a huge part of our job.
Yeah, but it can't. Yeah, as you say, it can't be the deciding factor. And I'm still not over the Twins Jays loss when Rios was pulled. And I know we're talking about a different sport,
Yeah, but it's
but
still the same thing. You
it's still
can't
the same,
rely on
right?
computers to make human decisions.
Exactly. I mean, he would never pull a goalie for 2 periods if he's going to shut like this.
Right.
Even the suggestion is ludicrous. But that's the day and age we live. Who've been some of your mentors? You mentioned of your father to bring you to this point. Some coaches. Is there anybody else that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a lot. Grandpa, my dad's dad, was a coach, and we used to spend time with him in Kelowna and go to the Ogo Pogo at the time. Now it's become the OHA hockey school, but the Ogo Pogo hockey school, and Grandpa had a quiet leadership ability, and he actually worked for NORAD, so he was trusted with some much more important decisions than I make today. And so he would be one. One came into my life just a couple of years ago. COVID and a whole lot of things have kind of put my wife, and we've got 3 young boys together and one older. COVID made us feel a long way from home when I was living on the East Coast, and we were doing a good job. And Edmonton was a great place to coach, and a fabulous place to be a hockey player. I think average 2,400 or 2,500 fans a game over the course of time that I was there. But after COVID, being closer to home and everything felt really important. So we moved to Invermere, and just thought, you know what, I can still coach hockey. We can live in a beautiful place. We can raise our kids in a small community in the mountains, just like I grew up. And so we made a lifestyle choice to go to Invermere. And what it did was bring me into contact with a mentor that started paying attention, and it was really kind of surreal. Like the team we built in Invermere was good. I think on the season we were plus 92, and we only lost 9 games in the regular season. And I was only back in the KI for 1 year. But a big reason was it must have been November. But it was about this time I kind of noticed in the stands this familiar face, and he was kind of just watching practice. And then he came to a couple of games, and then my assistant coach asked if I minded if Tom Rennie came in to my office and chatted. And of course, he coached in Invermere back in the 70s and or 80s. I guess it was the 70s, and it's like his office. I'm just the current the guy with the computer on the desk now. So it was like, of course, and yeah, meeting Tom was kind of like it reinvigorated my, like, man, people make it from here. Like if you're consistent and you keep growing and you have success and obviously luck and people in your corner, maybe coaching can be something bigger than just what I do and what I do to. So anyway, about midway through the year, he kind of encouraged me to like climb the ladder, see where this takes you. He believes in me, and having a guy like that tell you that that you need to get up and and move out of the KI and climb up the ladder again. Not that I didn't feel like I was a good coach, but it was just it kind of was one of those things that became an obvious choice when the Yorkton Terriers job came up. Even though timing wasn't good, it was late in the off season. I had no recruiting ability. Like I already said, my family shouldn't have moved here last year, but we did, and we're glad we did. Like it's all worked out here. But the timing was bad. But with that advice and just like, you know, you're good at this, pursue it at the highest level possible, and who knows, you could be coaching the NHL someday. I kind of remember that and try to do my best every day and remember those words in tough times, because there's when you're coaching, you're going to lose, and there's going to be different ways to lose and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be a new mentor that I lean on a lot. Like I call him, probably more than he knew, that when he gave me his number and said, give me a call anytime. Maybe he didn't know what that meant. But he's been a really good resource and kind of, bouncing things, whether it's, what happens in this situation when a player is acting like this, or when I'm feeling like this, or any, you run the gauntlet. Things happen in this business that don't happen in any other, and he'd probably be the best guy right now that I call and like, here's a new truth. This is matching all my other truths. How do I fit this into this one? And he said some things that are simple, obvious, but you forget. And yeah, I would say Tom would be a new one, and hopefully he doesn't mind me name dropping there. But yeah, kind of a new one and a really exciting one for me.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're managing people. Like there's more to the 2.5 hours. You got the whole week and everything else. And then when you talk about smart move, if memory serves me correct, maybe it wasn't the Yorkton Terriers were kind of in limbo
Hmm.
things too, right? So, and it's kind of been this perfect storm for you to kind of settle in. And when I saw that there, I was like, oh boy, like that's the York Terriers are a staple in the SJ for sure, and
Yeah.
glad you guys are still there.
Yeah. Well, that was a career low for sure. Was last year, and more, not because of hockey. Like hockey's a game. We remind our guys all the time, like, we get pretty serious about a game probably invented by indigenous kids that were whacking a horse or cow turd around a frozen pond, and now we have analytics about it, and we were talking about decisions and all that kind of stuff. Like we get pretty serious about it, but as a father and a husband, to move from a great place to another great place. But we're invested. We bought a house in this community. We're here, and then the bottom falls out of every day. Your guts, your stomach, your heart. When you learn that the team's got no money, and you start worrying about things that aren't hockey, like, is my check going to bounce? Am I going to be able to pay the mortgage? Those kind of things. And yeah, that was a huge worry. And our team means so much to me. Last year it was a fun group to coach, because with all that distraction, and you look for excuses or anything like that, they kind of got more competitive. Last year's team and the start of this year, the community has gotten behind us in a huge way. We're currently leading the league in attendance, and sponsorship is up, and that's due to the community and our marketing guy Calvin. But it's a perfect storm, and I guess with a perfect storm comes how bad it was when it happened, and the rebuild is just like you get to make this special again, and the community, I mean, it's what people are talking about again. And it reminds me of the kind of those days where rinks were always packed. Like what happened, and people here were reminded of, man, we could lose the Terriers. Like my grandpa used to come to these games, or my dad brought me to these games. So I think people remembered that, and how important junior hockey is in these small communities, and they're responding in a way that I think, yeah, it reignites my own passion, and certainly our players, love the fact that they play in a town that, you know, 10% of the population is coming to our games every night. So
Yeah.
it's special.
That is huge, right? You can almost do ESPN 30 for 30. And when you mentioned about the lack in attendance, one of my first interviews I ever did on this podcast was with Rod Peterson, where he said, you know, when the games are always showing, like as a kid, it was Saturday night.
Yeah.
We're watching the Leafs and whoever, or Habs, whatever. And now you can watch hockey every night.
Yeah.
And there's always an excuse to stay in.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Bomber game's on TV, but I want to be there, right? It's like everything is so accessible within your own house. And at the core of it, and I've had interview and I've talked to and Claire Braun from the Niverville Nighthawks. Ultimately, this is about community and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the core, right? And how much teams and all that means, it's massive, right? And you know, you're in the SJ and everything else, and I can't help but think about you know, the humble Broncos as well, and what every team in the SJ means to their community is huge.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it is, you know, it's nostalgic, and you're you're right. It's too easy to be in your living room. And we broadcast our own games. You can watch the Yorkton Terriers from one block away in your living room and not
Yeah, on the
paid
phone.
$4 or $5 a beer, and not, you know, so it's a decision to get out. But I just think it's important, like post COVID, people have gotten too disconnected, and it's too easy to not have a social life, and it's too easy to not have, like, I look at a hockey game, man, in these towns, a hockey game is like a town meeting once a week. Like, why aren't you running into your neighbor at the rink and buying your buddy a beer, and watching your, you know, like, hopefully the staff doesn't hear this part of the interview, but watching your kids run around and play at the rink, like that's what the building was made for, is people to meet. That's why there's seats in the stands. We don't play in rinks that, you know, that are made for broadcasting. We're playing in rinks that are made for fans to enjoy the game. And it's awesome to see the rink fill back up. And it does remind you, my dad used to say, it's Canadiana, right? Like, this is what Canadians did, and it's what we've done for 100 years, and we forgot to do it, and it's become easy to not do it. But man, what's the point if we're not getting together?
Yep, because yeah, we're all made for we all need each other
Yeah.
at the core level. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's other aspects of life where that can go into, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Um, what did I gotta ask? What did Carenport mean to you in your development?
You know what? Like, it's an amazing place. And I wasn't spiritual or religious or anything going into it. It was honestly the first time I was inside of a church for a reason other than a wedding or a funeral. And it's the people that you meet there, and having teachers care about who you're turning into as a human. Not that my teachers prior to Carenport didn't, but it's a small community where everyone's goal is to have people be successful. And it's just the first time I remember my English teacher. The most important thing was kind of the connection. Like, how was the hockey game? You guys are playing so well, and they would show up to the games. And honestly, like, the relationships formed out of there. I met Darcy Hogan at Carenport. He was at Briarcrest, and we had a relationship from that point until the bus crash, with Darcy and Christina. And you know, it's a place where good people meet. It's a place where I was introduced to religion and spirituality, and uh, and a place where you can, like, I remember going home after Carenport, and, you know, like, the same friends that I was growing up with, and we were all passionate about hockey and sports and playing tennis together in the summer and golf. And some of them, you go home and, you know, they want to go and party and, you know, grab a beer, and a beer leads to another beer, and then more bad decisions. Not that a couple beers, like I've already mentioned, it's part of what we're doing here. But it just was a place where people were honest, and they told each other the truth, and they worried about each other and cared about each other. And it kind of reshaped. And I think it was important for me at 17 to have that window of like focus on hockey. You go to the Sparrow Gardens, you get up, eat at the mess hall or whatever that you call the cafeteria, and I was actually thinking about friends that I met at Cairnport this morning. Like I woke up and thought,
Mm.
what's Kevin Mason up to these days? And I've run into people that, I mean, I think you mentioned Sean Rutledge, and there's just people that went to Cairnport that I think about a lot, and I think in the background people are helping each other out, and it's a good community to have been a part of.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that too because I took the kids to the Labor Day Classic, and on the Monday morning leaving Regina, I get an inbox from somebody I had met at the reunion in 2018, and we didn't go to school together. She goes, if you're still in Moose Jaw, you can come by the coffee shop. Like, okay,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
really? Thank you
yeah,
so much. Yeah, get back at midnight instead of 11, but yeah, yeah. I ran into Lloyd Friesen there just by chance, and then had lunch with the Hulls on the way home. And
yeah, yeah.
it's like you don't miss a beat. So, and Ryan's coming on next week too, so that'll be good too.
Yeah, yeah.
Any,
No, it's just did it? Yeah, did it say? It didn't save me. It didn't save my life. I grew up in Canmore, and I didn't have that many hardships or anything like that going into it. But it, yeah, definitely taught me about community and yeah, like how a small town could make it, and um, yeah, and the relationships that you form in those places are amazing. I actually ran into John Bechtold. He came up here because we had a changeover in our chaplain this year. So he came up and introduced a couple of people, and yeah, it just brings you back like right away. You start remembering the people you met in Cairnport, and the impact that they had on you.
still remember sweeping his driveway after the Devils swept the Red Wings in '95, and then I brought him a bunch of Pro Set hockey cards.
Nice, nice.
Oh, it's so good. Where you guys are doing really well in the standings. You guys are second place. I had just looked there.
Yeah,
How's this year shaping up? You like your chances?
yeah, we do. You know what? We kind of had our core values meeting here on our last road trip. We've had the hardest schedule. We just actually get back to the Westland here today for the first time in 26 days. We were out of our rink because of the harvest showdown, the powwow, and a whole bunch of stuff that the community uses this rink for. So we've been on the road for the month, and on the ice, our team has outscored our opponents 15 times to 4. Now we forfeited 3 games, so we're actually in second place because of a clerical error that I made, and not the performance on the ice. So I mean, when you look at our team that plays on the ice, they're just a first place team. They're first place in their championship individuals. We keep it really simple in Yorkton. Our goal here is to bring role models into our community who can help us win a championship. And so with everything we do, we try to remember those two standards. Are you a role model, and can you help us win a championship? And it's a combination probably of what I learned from Dwight, and now with my young kids, and seeing all of the forks in the road that youth are faced with these days. I mean, Yorkton is not it's a great place to live, but man, there's been overdoses, there's been drug addiction issues, and I just think it's so important that the Yorkton Terriers are role models in Yorkton first, and that we strive to win a championship second. So we remember that, and our guys are that. They're role models in our community, and we believe that they can help us win a championship.
Very good. Any pre-game routines that you have as a coach? What kind of goes into that when you first get up to game time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's changed a lot. Like from a player, when I was a young coach, I kind of tried to keep as many of my game day routines alive as I could, like your pregame nap and stuff like that. But my wife has a busy career now too, and we've got 3 young kids that probably aren't cool with me having naps. So I've done away with that one. But no, it's you get up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee. We try and make roster decisions that again are really fair to the development of our players. But again, the fairness is the loyalty is to the win. We say like what we want to do is put a 20-man roster together that helps us win that night, and we've done that. You meet with your coaches and Pierre Luc. Last year we didn't have a full-time assistant. We've added that, so a lot of conversation with Pierre Luc about lineup, about what's our special teams going to look like tonight. What video do we show? How do we best have our guys prepared for the game? But I do think game days are for playing. So we generally want our guys thinking as little as possible and playing, like have fun with the game, and hopefully our preparation is enough, and then kind of a recap, and hopefully like after the game you have a little bit of a celebration. We did enough this time, and then get ready for the next one.
Good, good. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
You know what, I don't think, I
Like
always tell
something
the
like you want.
players, raise your hand if you want to play in the NHL. And I've coached a couple of kids that I believe are going to get there, and they raised their hand first of all. I don't know if I'll be in the NHL in 5 years, but I want to be on my way there. So whether that's we've made this into a year after year contender, whether that's I've earned a spot at a higher level, and that level being the WHL or whatever, like I want to grow and I want to keep going. And in 5 years, I want to see myself closer to the NHL than I am today. And that can be in Yorkton. It can be in wherever. It doesn't, the next step is not, it's not forefront. It's I know there's a method, and it has to be a day to day, and it has to be a commitment to this, today getting a little bit better, and then tomorrow we wake up and get 1% better, and hopefully after getting 1% better for 5 years, I'm enough percent better to have been closer to an NHL job. We'll see.
Well, I mean, if I just look at the province of Saskatchewan, there's so much NHL that has come out of there, right? Barry Melrose as a coach, Wendell Clark, yeah, obviously Gordie Howe, etc. So I mean,
Yep.
it's looking good. So
Yeah. I mean, you have to do a good job at every step of the way. And I think the other thing is like the people that you've rubbed shoulders with have to root for you. Because I don't think you get jobs at a higher level than this. You don't get jobs like this one unless a lot of people say you should hire this guy. You should hire this guy, because I don't, like you have at the junior A level. I would say when you have a coaching change, you're going to have over 100 resumes of good coaches. So it comes down to your references, how you've treated people, what your players say about you, what your players' parents think about you. All those things definitely factor into can you get another job, and are people going to trust you with the development of special, unique players.
well, it must be a Briarcrest thing going on here because I found out that the head coach for the Winkler Flyers is from Briarcrest too. So and he's a counselor. He has a degree in counseling. So this is funny.
Yeah, yeah,
So uh, anyhow, I try not to tie everything back to Cairnport, but those are pivotal years for me too. So
yeah, for sure, for sure.
um, guess a couple more questions before I let you go,
Yeah,
if that's all right. You already talked about the Chiefs. Any favorite NHL team?
yeah. Again, I grew up close to the Flames. My parents billeted. Again, if you are on the fence about whether billeting is worth it or not, it's hard. We're built to do hard things as people, but a guy we billeted a long time ago. He's actually just back in Canmore this week visiting. He was best friends with Jerome McGinley. So we had Jerome McGinley sleep over one time when I was a young kid, and my parents, having been involved with people that were running hockey schools, Rocky Hockey, the guy running that was a family friend. So we had at one time we had like Chris Pronger and Chris Gratton and Todd Harvey and Jerome McGinley and all these people that were instructors at the hockey school visit our house, and have too much to drink, but get to know those guys, and man, it was so cool. Like we were on a 3-on-3 hockey team, and Jerome McGinley was on it, and I was 14 years old or whatever I was, and he was an easy. I was a Flames fan anyways. Being from Canmore, there was a time where we switched to the Oilers because of Ryan Smith and some of the people that went the Oilers way. But when Jerome McGinley was back in Calgary, it was easy for me, and I've been a Flames fan ever since. And again, just like the Chiefs, right now it feels harder. They had a great start to this year, but I think Craig Conroy is going to. I think they've got the right people running it, and it's going to be a couple of years. It's a bit of a rebuild right now, and it's nice to see the older guys like Huberdeau's coming back. He's turning back into the player he was going to be. Kadri's turning back into the player they brought in. I think the Flames are going to be better than what people expected this year, but I'm excited for their future again. But I've been a Flames fan for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they always everybody thought Florida got hosed in that deal, and
Yeah,
Chuck's won that cup. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, we all know that was a goal in Game 6 with Jelena too. So, uh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
again, not to bring up bad memories,
yeah. Well,
but
you know what? As a Flames fan, enough time has passed where we can just say we were champions. You
right,
know.
right.
But yeah, no, it's been the Flames, and you know what, being in this part of the world now, really cool to see what's going on in Winnipeg with the Jets. And again, I think that's buy-in and that's culture, because Winnipeg isn't the place that does well in free agency. They build it the hard way, and it's really cool to see the Jets have the best start in NHL history. Like that's amazing. So I'm a fan of hockey. I probably can't pick a favorite team and only root for them anymore because I study the game now. I like seeing what's going on in a lot of places. Even from a business perspective, seeing Utah and Seattle and Vegas and like those places just kind of take off and proof that the game is growing further south and the Americans are coming. you know, it's cool to see that. And but yeah, I've been a Flames fan forever, and I'm probably turning into a Jets fan. But that's a bandwagon issue there.
Hey, no worries at all. We'll accept all if you want to get on the bandwagon, you're more welcome to. So
Yeah,
I was a Leafs fan. I'm still a Leafs fan, but it's more sways towards the Jets because they're right in my backyard and whatever else. But again, I got to talk to Cole Perfetti and Shifley just briefly at the Faith Night there, and they were more concerned about their NFL fantasy lineups. But they were
yeah,
excited to get the season going. It was just kind of like this sense of, okay, these guys are ready to go. And
yeah,
just keep their games off Prime. They're fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's been awesome, and I think it's good for Canadian teams to obviously be strong. And I know I'm stating the other obvious here.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Well, and the salary cap and the state income tax. There's all kinds of reasons why you see Toronto or you see the Florida teams and you see Dallas and you see there's reasons that those teams are in Vegas. There's reasons that those teams are going to be built a different way. But yeah, I agree. I would love to see, as a Flames fan, I would have loved to see Edmonton, prevail last year, but this year maybe it'll be Winnipeg at the end, and maybe it'll be Calgary. Calgary's off to a good start too.
That they are, and it gets people engaged here in Canada, gets them all going, and it's always a good thing for. I remember in '04, like I almost drove up to Calgary to the Red Mile and whatever else, right? Like you
Yeah,
just, you kind of you jump on that and you ride it for as long as you can.
yeah, you want to be there.
And one more question:
Yeah.
who do you have in the Grey Cup?
Oh man, you know what? My assistant coach is a huge Alouettes fan, so I've been following along with that this year. Like again, I'm a Chiefs fan, so my family has grown up on Sundays. We watch the Chiefs, and that's the extent of our football fandom.
Yeah.
Um, but we started going to Rough Rider games. Just it was summer. We wanted our kids to experience it, and we kind of turned into CFL watchers. I don't know that we haven't bought any foam fingers. My kids got a bunch of green jerseys and shirts and hats and I don't know, chains, all that kind of stuff that you can buy at the souvenir shop. I don't know. Winnipeg looks pretty good. And in Saskatchewan, I'll probably hear it for saying that, but they look awesome. Winnipeg looks like they're going to win it.
Well, they're 10.5 point favorites, and with Chad Kelly out, I do like their chances more. I was in Regina 2 years ago for that game, and I just had the sense that Winnipeg took them too lightly. Not that I had anything to do with the game. I'm like, oh, this will kind of be quote a cakewalk, but
Right.
about a quarter in, I'm like, this ain't going to be any cakewalk. So
No, no, you're never going to have a cakewalk championship probably, but yeah, I don't know. Like I don't, and again, I'm not a huge CFL. I don't know the numbers, but I think I saw something like Winnipeg's been in the Grey Cup how many years?
five.
Five in a row. Like that experience has got to count. They've they've gone there and taken an opponent lightly, like you said. They've learned from that. I just think they're too good to lose, but that's probably why they have a chance to lose.
It's true. And I mean, with the Chiefs, it'd be the last two Super Bowls combination of 6 points total combined victory, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and I can always come back. Those guys just give me the. And they all. I think they both give us a heart attack. I remember being over at somebody's house when they played Houston. So this is in 2020, and I'm like, yeah. I told the guys, I'm just gonna take it easy. And like halfway through, I'm like, hey, like we're on red alert here, and
yeah,
Forrest in with the block punt, and then it was like, hey, 51-31 at the end. And it's like, yeah, you're
yeah,
you're more scared after the fact. So pretty wild stuff. And like even last week with the Chiefs, right? Like I get all these like I didn't watch the fourth quarter, and people are like, I had three people reach out to me. They shouldn't have won this game. Shouldn't have won this game.
yeah. It's a conspiracy. The refs want them to win.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily buy. Like, yes, is
Oh, I don't either. I mean, there's
oh,
those referees are they're held to a pretty high standard, and the game is fast, and there's mistakes made, and you see the mistakes every year for sure. But I don't think the mistakes have a preordained favorite. I think refs make mistakes because they're human beings, and they're watching a very very fast sport, and there's usually 80,000 people screaming in the background, which never helps people make good decisions.
nope, not at all, right? Like even on the weekend, Alexander was called for a bad play, like a roughing, and it's like they showed the replay and then they reversed it. No, no, that wasn't roughing. That wasn't illegal play. It's like, okay, well, you got it right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
nobody, no, the refs didn't help anybody block that field goal. It was the player that blocked it. I mean,
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and again, you see that conversation on the page often, right there. So people throw
Yeah.
these out. But
Oh,
yeah,
we got players. They just know that I'm a Chiefs fan, so they'll usually make the comment, and it's like, yeah, it does appear that way sometimes that everyone's cheering for the Chiefs because they're just so unbeatable.
yep. And I don't like if there's a game they're going to lose, it'll be Buffalo this week. That's kind of my gut.
Yeah.
But if with the years with the Patriots, like I go back to the AFC Championship game and the 2019 one, I was like, okay, everything's against the Chiefs, right? And again, I'll blame D Ford more than
Yeah.
anything. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the Patriots did this and this, and like for years they would always quote get away with everything. But
Right.
Eli Manning beat the Patriots twice, and also Nick Foles, which is still unbelievable.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the best teams they make you pay for one, and then it starts looking like whatever. You don't on screen you see the guy carrying the football and the guy that catches it, and everything else is probably so close to call. But the best teams make you pay for one mistake, and then you get a blocked field goal, and other than that, Denver played a pretty flawless game against Kansas City. Should have
that
won,
is
but
right.
didn't because they're not the Chiefs. They're
Right.
not there yet.
No. And the margins are always this
Yeah,
small, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
9-0, it could easily be 5-4 or 4-5.
Right. Yeah,
And then nobody really talks about that, but you are what your record says you are. That's what Bill
true.
Parcells says.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Good, good. Well, this has been awesome to have you on and to share your story and your journey. And as I always tell every guest, I'd love to have you on again if you ever want to come on.
Yeah, give me a buzz. So hopefully next time we're talking about yeah, the Yorkton Terriers are in first now, and and we're getting ready for a playoff run. Or yeah, it's been great being on the show. I appreciate your time and
Yeah.
interest in us and me, and we're always available for to talk about the Yorkton Terriers, who we love.
Yes, most definitely. Alrighty, Emery, you have a great day, and as I always say, God bless.
God bless. Thank you.